Good evening, everyone. It's time for Necromaniacs podcast. It's that time of the week for terror and all things horror. How's it going, Mike?
What's up, Mike? What's up, everybody? Like Mr. Hill said, Necromaniacs podcast is with you once again, the horror podcast. I am well. We are getting to the end, the near end of March. April is around the corner. I don't know. I'm looking forward to spring. I'm looking forward to better weather. What about you?
Yeah, we've seen each other out quite a bit recently.
Yes, we have,
and that's always a good thing. And we're going to probably see each other again fairly soon. We're both going to the same shows, and
I know.
It's like it's a thing, and I like that, and I'm looking forward to that. And
yeah.
Going out, we went to the Immolation show, and it was like rainy, but it was still kind of warm, and like walking around New York City, it made me think of the spring, and I'm like, yes, I'm ready for the spring.
Yeah, totally. I mean, and like I said, it's as much as of a back to normal, I guess, as we can be right now, living in this crazy ass time. But if you're a new listener, Mike and I, we go to a lot of metal shows. Involved in the metal and hardcore scenes, and it's something we love doing just as much as we love seeing horror movies and going to the movies, honestly. And yeah, it was a lot of fun. It was funny. It kind of reminded me of almost like a metal version of like the New York Hardcore Black and Blue Bowls that take place every May. Only far less bands. There was only 5 bands, but it was just like this really kind of cool vibe at the show. Listeners, it was Immolation, Demolition Hammer, Mortician, our buddies Black Anvil, and great new band from New York City, Funeral Leech. And it was just a lot of fucking fun, huh?
Yeah, I missed Funeral Leech because I miscalculated a little bit in my arrival time. But but I saw all the bands. I definitely made sure I saw Black Anvil because that's our good friends that are in that band. And Mortician's always great. Demolition Hammer I haven't seen in probably 20 years.
Oh, what did you think?
Fucking amazing, dude. They were like just fucking aggressive and just good, man. And,
yeah, man.
And Immolation are riding a high right now, man. They're on.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
Yeah, they were amazing, and people loved them, and the place was packed, and I was really happy for those guys because they. They're OGs, man. They're like original New York death metal guys,
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I think having, them and Mortician and Demolition Hammer all together on the same bill was probably a real treat for them personally. And Dan Lilker, of course, of Nuclear Assault, Brutal Truth, SOD fame, was the MC host of the night, which I thought was really cool. I mean, these are people that have known each other for a very long time, and it was just a great vibe. It's almost like you hated for the show to be over,
I know, man. I was kind of bummed, and I had to duck out like a little early too, and I'll tell you why. Because I parked my car in the garage that was across the street from Irving Plaza.
Okay.
And I'm like, oh great, and much to my dismay, I found out that the garage closes at 11:30.
11:30 sharp, huh?
Yeah, man. So I was like, I was like super. I wanted to make sure I went down and I bought some merch. I got the LP, the new Immolation, Acts of God LP, and a T-shirt, and I bought a hat. Supporting, man. I'm supporting.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
And but I also wanted to make sure, you never know how long it's going to take at the merch line, and I wanted to make sure I made it out to the car in time to get out of town. So that's why I ducked out like a little bit early.
It's okay. I mean, rumor has it they'll be back in 2022 in the New York City area. So I guess we'll see, when that takes place. But Immolation is going back out on a shorter run with Carcass, leading up to the Maryland Death Fest, which takes place in May. But they're not on the New York City date, which is at that club Elsewhere, Mike, in Brooklyn.
I haven't been there yet. Elsewhere.
Yeah, I've been there twice already. I saw Incendiary there, the hardcore band, and then I saw Nitzer Ebb there, which was a lot of fun. Yeah, that was back in I forget what month that was, last November, December or something. That was really cool.
What
Um,
neighborhood is that in? You were telling me about the show, but what part of Brooklyn is that
what
in?
part of I guess it's that East Williamsburg, Bushwick, kind of, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
It's I don't know if you ever heard of the Cobra Club. It's near there.
Yeah.
I guess it's Bushwick. It's Bushwick. It's
That's
like right there.
it seems like that's where a lot of the places are these days. Like there's
The
the uh
Monarch is there.
the Brooklyn
Hmm.
Monarch, and Brooklyn Steel where we saw Cannibal.
Yes, yes, they're all around there. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
And there's even a cool record store right above elsewhere that I was at recently with my buddy Mark. The name of the record store is escaping me, but yeah, it's like right above it. Um, so yeah, man, lots of activity going on, lots of shows. I mean, I was looking at all the shows I want to go to, like between like metal and hardcore. And it's like, my God, this is a lot between now and like through April. It's a shit ton. So
Yeah.
you know what? Tomorrow is not guaranteed, listeners. That's my motto. And you might, go to the shows, see the movies, right? What do you think?
Well, that's exactly my sentiment, And speaking of
Mm.
seeing the movies, I saw X, the new Ty West film.
Oh, awesome.
It was
What do you think?
I'm going to say right now that it's going to be on my list of best horror films of 2022.
Oh, you heard it, listeners. It's a movie we'll definitely be covering.
Yeah.
Its theatrical run apparently is coming to an end this week. It's a short one,
Yep.
but we saw that it's in a lot of AMC theaters, so we're going to take a shot in the dark and say that it may end up on Shudder within the next few months, which I hope. And of course, if it does, I'll see it then because I don't know if I'm gonna catch it in the theater. So, yeah.
Yeah, it played at the Dine-In AMC theater here by me in lovely Edison, New Jersey,
Hmm.
and I saw it in the afternoon, and I was the only person in the theater, and that was great.
That's great.
Yeah,
Yeah, man, nothing wrong with that. I just want to get our plugs out of the way. Listeners, we support other podcasts that we enjoy and that give us some support. And of course, we're going to kick it off with our friends at the Break the Apocalypse podcast, coming out every Friday on all streaming platforms. Horror Wolf 666, our buddy Brandon Legion, also another great weekly podcast. Into the Necrosphere, which you should be checking out if you're a metal fan, of course. And Alan Averill of Primordial's Agitators Anonymous, who has now gone bi-weekly, Mike. Not bi-weekly. He's coming out twice a week, actually.
That's a lot, man.
That is a lot because I believe what he's doing is one is kind of focusing on the political stuff of the day, maybe things about the war and whatnot, and things of that nature. And the other is going to be more music related. He's kind of splitting it up, really.
Okay.
So I think that's kind of cool. He's a touring musician that, it's been around a long time. So he's got great stories and opinions to share on the primordial side. And he's like a smart, outspoken guy on the other side. So, if you have the time, I guess, go for it. But this week he dropped one about how the Ukraine-Russian war could affect touring, like financially affect touring, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah, I'll have to tune into that. I mean, I know, gas is a thing,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah,
sucks
yeah,
because
about that. Mm-hmm.
we got 2 tours coming up, when I'm sure that our profit margins
Mm.
are going to be significantly affected by $4.50 or $5 gas.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, he talked about how that it hits like a mid-sized band the hardest. Like, he said like he compared the different levels of bands to like a Weekend Warrior band to like a more mid-sized band to like a huge band, and of course the mid-sized band would be taking the biggest shot in the ass. Basically, is what he kind of pointed out, which I thought made sense. But yeah, it's a great podcast. Check it out. Agitators Anonymous. You said you checked out, X, the movie. I have been on an odd kick lately at night on Netflix watching Seinfeld from the beginning, believe it or not. I love Seinfeld when it was on, and my dad was like a big fan of it. And think I just have great memories of not only just watching it like when it was like a first run TV show. I mean, I enjoyed it when it was on, 3 times a day. And now that it's on Netflix with like zero commercial interruptions and kind of like seamlessly on, it's kind of a bit of a different experience, if you can believe that.
I've only seen handfuls of episodes of that. It fell in that part of my life where I didn't really, I was like, we didn't
You
have
weren't home.
yeah,
You were out about.
yeah, we didn't have a TV. I wasn't living
Yeah,
with
you
my
didn't have to.
parents. We didn't have a TV. It was like we had a TV with like a VHS, thing, and
Mm,
it was, and the only time I really watched television is if I was hanging out with like a girlfriend at her place or something like that. You know what I mean?
hmm But yeah, it definitely reminds me of my dad. My dad passed back in 2014, and I don't know. It's just it's good to watch. I think before I'm going to sleep. That's kind of what it's become. You know.
Yeah, I have shows like that too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like for a while I finished Archive 81, which was which is some fucked up shit to watch before you go to bed, honestly. But of course, I always did. So to ease into kind of Seinfeld before you go to bed, I think it's good. I guess it would be. I mean, it's almost like watching episodes of like The Munsters or the Addams Family or like, you know, just something very kind of light,
Yeah.
before you drift off into sleep, which I'm barely sleeping these days. So I've been watching Seinfeld quite a bit, unfortunately.
Yeah, I have my go-to stuff to watch, before I, drift off too. And I'll like put like Eastbound and Down on or something like that.
Yeah, oh, it's so great. Yeah, I finished Righteous Gemstones. I'm all caught up on a lot of shit, so it's like I'm in this kind of gray area of what to watch, which is now going to be taking me back into movies. And I wanted to say, Mike, I got to go to the Archive in Connecticut the other week,
Oh,
um,
interesting.
with
Okay.
my buddy Mark Yoshitomi from Generation Records. He dragged me out there. I got up very early on a Sunday, and we went. And it is a really cool spot in Connecticut. Worth the pilgrimage to. Um, I was kind of overwhelmed, man. I mean, the Archive is a retail store that's owned by the people who run Vinegar Syndrome,
Yep.
the wonderful Blu-ray company.
It's in
So
Bridgeport, right? Bridgeport,
yes,
Connecticut. Yeah.
yeah, Bridgeport, Connecticut. Um, Not super far from my abode in Brooklyn. Over an hour though. But man, yeah, it's overwhelming. I mean, you've got like a tremendous vinyl selection of not even just soundtracks. They have like metal and punk and hardcore and weird stuff and new stuff, and that's kind of overwhelming. And they have this, of course, an overwhelming selection of Blu-rays. And then they have a tremendous used Blu-ray section, a
Oh.
huge used DVD section, and a huge used VHS section, like huge. Um, so you can only like imagine what you would think, I guess, that kind of store would be, and that's pretty much what it is, man. It's pretty great.
That's awesome, man. Like, yeah, I have yet to check that place out. I've been meaning to go up there,
Yeah,
and check it
I
out.
would go again, man. I mean, it was really cool. I picked up they reissued Dario Argento's Trauma on Blu-ray.
Yeah, I have that for that version
Yeah,
of it. Yeah.
so I grabbed that. I almost grabbed Censor, but I was like,
I
you know,
recommend that one, dude. I have
I
that.
know. I think I am gonna probably just get an actual copy of it, to be honest. Um, and yeah, I was talking to one of the guys who works there. He was really cool. His name is Dino. He also has his own horror podcast. I eat movies, and I hope I didn't fuck that up. I eat movies. Hello, Dino, if you're listening. But yeah, it was fucking great. You know, like I said, overwhelming in a good way, but in a very good way. So yeah, the Archive in Connecticut.
Is he the guy that's at Chiller all the time at their table? Or-
No, that guy wasn't there. That guy, oh my God, it's like embarrassing. I always forget his name. I've literally been talking to him for like 8 years in a row, but no, it was not him. So I guarantee you, if I go to the next chiller at the end of April, which I'm pretty sure I am, I will see that guy, and I'll learn his name, and damn it, we'll put this to bed.
Yeah, they're always at chiller. Yeah, actually, I bought like one of those Giallo box sets. Like, there's a series they have. I think there's 4 collections.
Yeah.
Yeah, I bought the 3rd one.
Cool. I think they're up to volume 4 already.
Yeah,
which is nice. Yeah, man, really, really cool stuff. It's like, I mean, theoretically, I could have bought 10 different fucking things, but I just, I'm trying to just not go on tears of buying lately. So, but it's hard, man. It's fucking hard.
That censor Blu-ray is really, they did a really good job on that one because it's got really good commentary, the extras and all that stuff. It's a solid release. I recommend if you're gonna get, if you're interested at all in getting that, I totally recommend picking it up.
Then out in the wild, I picked up 4 Flies on Gray Velvet on vinyl, which is a really great score. It's a Morricone score. Morricone did the music to the first 3 Argentos, of course, before Goblin stepped in. And it's weird. You know what's weird about that fucking movie? It's kind of one of his most elusive films because it has no U.S. Blu-ray. It had a U.S. DVD, I believe, a while ago. Was it Anchor Bay? I don't even think Anchor Bay put it out, but it's kind of like MIA right now, at least in America, which kind of sucks because it's a good movie. It's kind of a little better, I think, than Cat and Nine Tails, but Cat and Nine Tails gets all the love, I think, and gets all the rub because of Carl Malden being in it.
Yeah,
American actor.
Yeah, people can relate to seeing the American friendly faces there.
Right. Great music in that one too. But yeah, I got 4 Flies on Gray Velvet for only like $20. Pretty cool.
There's a new podcast I started listening to called that Carl Hikara told me about. That's a guy that
one of our listeners. Yes,
hello, listener. Carl. Me and him correspond regularly about books and movies and music. Mm-hmm. And he's actually helped me out with I'm revamping the Everything Went Black Bandcamp page. So he's helped me out with
very cool
design.
Hey, Mike, isn't that other podcast you do you never cross promote?
We always
Everything Went Black.
You always forget to mention that one.
Yes, we should put that in our list of podcasts.
You know what? I'm looking at the list and it's not in there. So, so yeah, it's called The Evolution of Horror. It's a British podcast. It's very British. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Real British. They cover awesome movies. They talk about weird fiction. They talk about Lovecraftian stuff, alien horror. And they talked about Extra.
Extra, yes. That's a sick-ass movie. I need to see that movie.
And that movie doesn't have like a release. It doesn't have like a Blu-ray.
Oh, it's not available anymore.
Yeah,
okay.
Man. Yeah. And when at Chiller, the unknown Chiller guy that we were at the Vinegar Syndrome table, they put out Extra 3.
That's right, they did. Yeah,
but they don't have Extra 1. I was talking to the guy about it. I'm like, "What's the story with this, man?" So I'm waiting, hoping that they do a proper release of Extra, the first one.
That would be nice. That is, I remember that movie as like a kid. And then I watched it later as an adult, and it's equally disturbing movie from a childhood to adulthood.
It's a very, very disturbing. There's a lot of really very striking, disturbing images in that movie. Yeah, so I haven't seen it in over a decade, probably.
Yeah, that would be fun to cover.
Yeah, totally. Hopefully, someone re-releases it on a proper Blu-ray release.
That would be cool. So tonight, listeners, if you caught our prior podcast where we took a trip to France and we covered Trouble Every Day, we decided that we wanted to stick around in France a little bit longer. As we talked about also on that podcast, Shudder currently has a bevy, a lion's share of French horror from the O's, and we kind of took a bit of a deeper dive and decided that we wanted to check out one of the ones we had not seen. So tonight we are going to be discussing Livid, or, well, in France, I'm sure it is perhaps Livid. Tonight we are going to call it Livid, Mike. What do you think?
Yeah, we'll go with Livid because that's how it's listed. It's listed in on Shudder as just Livid,
Right, exactly. One of the other reasons why we wanted to choose this particular movie, aside from the fact that it was French and we had not seen it, was because it was done by the directors of one of our favorite French horror movies, Inside, being Alexandre Bustillo and Julien Maury. When we covered Inside months back, we had kind of ran down the list of movies they'd done since Inside that, had eluded us because of, I guess distribution reasons. And sure enough, Livid was the follow-up to Inside. It was the movie they put out kind of right after it. And in doing my research, apparently there was even supposed to be a U.S. remake of this movie that did not come to fruition. Did you know that, Mike?
I heard that this was actually supposed to be a U.S. production, and then the budget,
and that didn't happen either. Yeah,
yeah, the budget got cut, and just ended up being a French film,
like shot in France, right?
Shot
Exactly.
in France, like all just European like movie.
Yeah, according to what do you call it, Wikipedia, this was going to be an English language debut for the duo,
right? And
shot in the UK. Mm-hmm. But apparently they realized that they were kind of losing control over their story, and they were like, you know what, we're going to keep this a lower budget French production. So I guess what could have been, as they say, right?
And Beatrice Dalle has a very small part in this, and of course she was La Femme in in Inside. She was the killing machine in
the killing machine. Yes, the female Michael Myers, I refer to her as.
Yeah.
But much worse than Michael Myers in a way. Is it me, or does Miss Dahl really enjoy, her role in this movie is very brief, but it's very dark. I feel like she likes these fucked up roles. Am I right in that, do you think?
Absolutely, man. I mean, she's a very intense lady, man. Most of the films that I've seen her in, including non-horror films like Betty Blue, she's right on the edge of madness. You know what I mean? She's right on the edge in all these movies, except for maybe the Abel Ferrara film, the Blackout.
Mm-hmm.
She's in that film, but she's actually more of kind of like a staid character, where Matthew Broderick's character was the one going off the deep end, and she's the one who left because she didn't want any crazy shit in her life. So that's kind of opposite what you would normally expect the kind of role for her to play.
I feel like we would never see her in the equivalent of a light Jennifer Aniston romantic comedy. I just don't see that there. What do you know?
No, man. She's
just not going to do that.
I mean, she just looks so intense, man. She's got that, that weird, her eyes, everything about her is just intense,
She just looks like a really sexy, crazy woman that you just want thrown into your life because you just want the craziness. You don't even care.
Well,
right?
I think I even mentioned that that in when we were doing Trouble Every Day, that I wouldn't mind getting killed by her.
You know what? Just whatever. Let's just do it. Who cares?
Yeah.
You look like you're gonna probably kill me. Let's hang out. Let's hang out.
Yeah.
Let's get some drinks.
Sure.
Get some drinks and hang out.
Yeah.
And do crazy things. Livid. This is a 2011 French film released in France on December 7th, 2011. I love Shudder because this movie was pretty much never shown in America. Didn't get any kind of, Blu-ray in America or DVD that I am aware of. Mike, what about you?
Well, I was just going to add to that is I remember when I first discovered these guys trying to find their films, and I'd read about this movie, but it wasn't. They didn't even have it at Photoplay because there did not exist a U.S. release. You know what I mean?
Wow, because apparently there was a plan for it to come out via Dimension Films on in some way, shape, or form.
Right.
That never came to fruition. And the film, sat for over a decade until Shudder purchased the rights, putting it out to all of us horror maniacs on March 1st of this year, man. So, you know what? I know not everybody loves Shudder or has their beef with Shudder, but we sing their praises. And how the hell else would you find some of these movies? is the question.
There's a lot of stuff on Shudder. I got, not all of it's great, but there's a lot of great stuff there. You got all those, Morehouse and Benson films. You got this huge dump of like influx of French, movies, French extreme films. You got the Addams Family movies are on there. You got so much stuff. You got the Joe Bob series. You got all these other series on there. The one that had Danzig on it, Core.
Mm-hmm. And they're grabbing those, those 80s oddballs like,
Sleepaway Camp,
Butcher Baker, Nightmare Maker. Like, they're definitely getting some cool stuff. So yeah, we're into it, and we love Shudder. We wish we could have, the people from Shudder as a guest. Maybe that would be nice.
Yeah,
the owner of
Shudder. Find out what they're all about.
Find out what that's all about. I know that would be a big score for the show. But yeah, right off the bat, I will say this is quite different from Inside. Inside was kind of like, this gangbusters, violent, like buzzy kind of, indie Euro horror film that people are still talking about right now. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And people are still discovering. This movie is kind of like a weird supernatural fairy tale of sorts. Fairy tale meets kind of Edgar Allan Poe. Little nods, though, I will say, to maybe some Argento here. Would you agree?
Yeah, I would say I agree with that. But also, I also feel like the movie started as one type of film and ended in a different place.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I would totally agree with that. And I will say, I think I liked how it started better than where it went off the bat.
I liked how it started, and I appreciated where it went. But I don't know if they necessarily achieved everything with where they wanted to go with this movie,
Mm-hmm. To give a, summation, Livid follows Lucy, played by Chloe Khaloud, a young woman who is training to be an at-home nurse who is still reeling from her mother's death, her mother being the lovely Beatrice Stahl, the little cameo role in here. She has grown estranged from her father, who works nights, and moving on in his own personal life. She's accompanying Mrs. Wilson, played by Catherine Jacob, on patient rounds on her job. They finish the day at some really kind of creepy, isolated mansion owned by a comatose Mrs. Jessel, played by Marie-Claude Petraglia, who is a former ballet instructor rumored to possess hidden treasure somewhere within the walls of her home. We meet Lucy's boyfriend, William, played by Felix Motai, who convinces her and his brother, played by Jeremy Capone, to break into this home on Halloween night to claim these treasures for themselves. And then they realize they are not alone. Nice little summation there from the people at Bloody Disgusting. What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, that's pretty much the setting, for this film. And there's a lot of little details in there that I think really attracted me at first. And like I said, the Poe Gothic element that it moved into, I thought that was cool, but I don't know if it was fully actualized, really.
Yeah, I mean, the character of Lucy, Chloe Claude, is quite likable. Very like interesting character, and it's like you kind of feel bad for her, like when we kind of get to her home, and like it's just like, I guess you can kind of feel like the darkness that I think that the directors were kind of going for a little bit. And then, but she has a boyfriend. I mean, she has a life, and she's trying to make her way in the world by getting this new job as like a home health aide. What I liked actually was there's that one little interesting scene in the beginning where the woman who takes her on the rounds, Mrs. Wilson, is in the car, and she comes upon that girl on the bicycle.
Oh yeah.
And it just like, you kind of don't really know what just happened, and then later on, you cut to her kind of cleaning a bathtub full of blood.
Yeah, there's
Right?
almost like the end of Taxi Driver, like there's like that weird
Hmm.
scene where it's just like it's freeze frame sort of.
Yes.
Yeah,
To
it's like
me,
when
that hinted at, okay, she's kind of getting bodies. You know what I'm saying? Like she's kind of getting she's collecting blood for a reason. Um, what I left out was this Mrs. Jessel, who was this, like, crypt keeper looking old woman in a bed. She's getting a blood transfusion while they're at the house.
right, and she's
Now,
wearing this like,
that's a little odd.
and she's wearing this crazy like gas, like Rob Zombie looking like gas mask
Yeah,
kind of
yeah.
thing on her face, which
Now,
is like weird, you know.
if you have like 100-year-old woman that's like a home health, you're caring for her at home, it'd kind of be a bit odd to see her getting blood pumped into her. Wouldn't
Right.
that be a little bit odd?
Yeah.
Now, that's the thing. It's like, if you're, a horror fan that kind of knows their stuff a bit, it's like you're like, there's a vampire angle here, and why, yes, there is a vampire angle here. But again, much like Trouble Every Day, it's not kind of this open shut, oh, okay, it's a vampire horror movie, right?
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
not all that's going on here.
there's definitely more that's going on, you know. And I just want to talk about Lucy and her henchman real quick
Hmm.
because in the beginning of the film, when she's going through the rounds with Mrs. Wilson, we see one side of her. We see that she's
Hmm.
like, good at her job. Like Wilson comments that, oh, you know how to do all this stuff.
Yeah,
Great.
yeah. Hmm.
And she's got two different color eyes,
Yep.
which is like, some interesting angle that they use later on in the film.
Hmm.
Mrs. Wilson offers her a cigarette, right?
Hmm.
And she's like, "Oh, I don't smoke." Okay. But later on, like when she's after her shift, she goes down to the docks to meet William, and she's smoking a
Hmm.
cigarette. So,
Yeah.
she's kind of a bad girl a little bit. You know what I mean? She's like,
Right. She's her there's the work version,
yeah,
and there's the the real life version. Hey, I have a work version of myself that is a
yeah.
bit different
Yeah, we all do.
from the real life version. I'm sure you do.
Yeah,
We're singers in bands, for fuck's sake. But the thing is, yeah, that was an interesting little observation, Mike. I don't even know if I noticed that.
yeah,
Interesting.
and because like in the beginning, she seems like very, like straight laced almost, but then you
Right,
see,
right.
and then we meet William and Ben, and William is like a dock worker, fisherman, sailor guy,
Uh-huh.
He also has a police record. Apparently, he robbed someone and was in jail for a stint. And he is the one. Like she mentions that they went to the creepy house with it's that house apparently is like a site, like a place
Yeah,
that
yeah. Uh-huh.
they avoid. Of course, you get the feeling that in this small town they probably have all sorts of stories made up about that house and how it's haunted and it's a gateway to hell or something like that. Built over a
Hmm.
cemetery. Like every iteration of that trope, they probably have a folk story about it. And then she mentions the treasure, and right away William is the one. Oh, we should go and rob this place because he's
Yeah.
kind of a criminal, and like, and she's like, I can't, now you're robbing old ladies, is what she actually says to him.
Hmm. Yeah, Ben, his brother, has a job at the bar or whatever they go to, right?
Yeah,
And Will is the one who works on the docks. Um, it is kind of an interesting jump from being a girl who's learning a new job, a new straight job, right? To basically ultimately agreeing with your boyfriend and his brother to rob the joint of the place you just worked at hours ago.
yeah, and that's what I think, like that showing her smoking the cigarette and lying about it is like
Hmm.
it gives you this like character insight that she's like not bad, not like a, not as negative on the negative spectrum as say William was, but she can be convinced to step over the line. I think you know what I mean. That's what that's showing you.
I had a question. Do you remember how there was that kind of moment Inside where there's like there's the question of perhaps the political turmoil of the day going on in France.
Right.
Now, this is just a few years later in 2011. Is this also kind of like a little bit of about maybe class, about how, because these three people don't have a lot of money.
Well,
And then, like, is there a little bit of that going on here too? Maybe how they want to rob this rich old lady's house, maybe kind of,
well,
or
it's
am I
interesting.
reaching?
No,
Am I reaching?
I think that that's a very good point and something I
Hmm.
was thinking about too.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going to jump ahead a little bit here. There's
Yeah.
So we learned that Jessel, Mrs. Jessel, is she's like this undead vampire type bloodsucker,
Former ballerina instructor.
and
Yes.
they reveal that she's like a high level ballet dancer, and she was
Mm-hmm.
an instructor, and we see flashbacks, and there's these girls that are her students,
Mm-hmm.
and one of the girls bites another girl, and then she reprimands her. It's like, oh, we only bite people we don't know, meaning like the townsfolk. Okay.
Yes.
So there's like this rich upper class group of vampires that are feeding on the townspeople who are, more on the working class side of things.
Perhaps. Yeah, yeah. And that girl is her daughter, Anna, by the way.
Yeah, her
Right?
daughter
That's
Anna. Right.
who is, I guess, a vampire. Now, in the flashbacks, Mrs. Jessel is not a vampire, but her daughter is, or am I
No, Mrs.
incorrect?
Jessel is a
She is
vampire.
one too. Okay, that's
Yeah,
right. That's right.
definitely. Yep, she is. And
Yeah. So they both are
yeah,
basically.
they're a vampire dance group.
Yes. However, they were seen in daylight, so again, perhaps some of these rules, the traditional vampire rules, are not 100% applying here. Would you say?
It seems like the daylight, they're not stoked about being in the daylight, but it doesn't immediately incinerate them like you would, like in
No,
most
no.
vampire films.
Right, right, right.
And yeah, and the young Mrs. Jessel, she looks kind of like Diamond de Galas or something like that. She's like
Yes.
this very,
Mhm.
very like Mediterranean like face, you know what I mean? Very strong like visage, you know what I mean? It was really, she looked really cool.
Mhm.
Wearing all black and everything. Very, very
Yep.
interesting looking lady. But yeah, that angle I think is true. Is I think that's on the money, man. Knowing these two guys and
Okay.
how
Yeah.
they and this is I'm gonna make another statement here about how, if that is true, that I appreciate that sort of political commentary as opposed to getting beat over the head with it like they do in this country.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. It's subtle. It's subtle, and I feel like if you're not, um, maybe I mean maybe only if you're a French person, or you're in France, or you remember that era, you might know for a fact that, oh yeah, blah blah blah. This is in line with what was kind of going on and whatnot. I mean, I don't know my French recent history, or history in general all that well. Gotta be honest.
Yeah.
So
You know,
I can't really say.
and this is a French film. They
Yeah.
didn't have the United States in mind at all when they made this movie. This is going to
No.
always going to be a foreign film in this country. So maybe the cues are a little bit obscure for us. You know what I mean?
Right. Exactly. Exactly. But no, I thought that was cool. I mean, the one thing I thought was a very weird moment in the movie, um, as they're rummaging through the house, and they actually come upon the body of Anna, which is kind of like in this weird undead kind of alive state, where where they turn the key and she kind of moves, and one of them, I forget if it's either her boyfriend or the brother, punches the body in the face.
Yeah.
Do you remember that? I was like, I think I even said something to the TV like, why did you do that? I thought that was very an odd moment. Like, how do you punch it? Like, he punched like a dead little girl in the face. It was kind of weird.
Well,
No?
it was pretty clear that both of these guys are like these kind of knuckle dragger, like
Mm.
very coarse. I mean, William's like a fisherman or whatever. You know what I mean? And Ben, is a waiter. And the funny thing about Ben's character is that he's that guy, like that third person that you can convince to do anything, basically. You know what I mean? Like,
Uh-huh.
he doesn't have any. He's kind of like weak. You know what I mean? And like, if me and you were gonna rob a store or something like that, we needed like a third guy. Like we would find this guy Ben. Come on, Ben, let's go. Come on, here, drive. You get a driver tonight. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, and he would just go along with it because like everyone else is doing it. You know what I mean?
Well, poor Ben. After that moment, they're kind of they're kind of trying to flee the house after that punching moment, and as they're trying to find an exit, they become separated, and Ben finds himself in this odd operating room with no door and no idea how he got in there, and then he is kind of come upon by like three ballerina girls who slice and dice him up. That was a pretty fucked up scene. They Ben unfortunately meets his fate. That was really the first scene of actual real violence in the movie.
Yeah, and this is where, like we were saying, the movie started in one place and then went somewhere else. And like I was saying in the beginning, it's more like this kind of breaking and entering caper, like
Haunted house
house thing, and then it transitioned into this kind of like off-center vampire, undead sort of story,
Mm.
And throughout both of those strains of the film, there was like this kind of gothic Edgar Allan Poe, Shirley Jackson, like the house is like this decaying, like mansion, and there's like a lot of tropes that would be in like a Poe short story that are in this, and even the vampires are sort of like gothic, you know what I mean?
Right. No, I agree. I mean, I feel like it was kind of after this where it took a bit of a dive, although this is kind of where the action started. I mean, sometimes that happens, Sometimes you like a movie pre-action. But yeah, Will is attacked by Ben, who's basically Ben has now become a vampire, although I thought the dude was dead, but he's kind of like up and about, all bloodied and fucked up looking. Will stabs Ben with a pair of scissors, and then Mrs. Jessel, steps in, who is like, out of her kind of comatose state and, in her vampire kind of attack mode. And then she kills him. Lucy at this point has learned, we mentioned that flashback scene. That was kind of where, Mrs. Jessel also finds Lucy in the house. And, I forget, she lifts her hands up or whatever. And then they kind of flash back to that scene. And then I guess Lucy sees that that past scene about vampirism and Anna and all that shit. The film just kind of gets a little loosey-goosey now. Like I said, things kind of start ramping up, and Anna is kind of thrown into the mix, and she tries to go after Lucy, and then we still have Mrs. Jessel into the mix trying to kill everybody else, and ultimately they kind of subdue and sedate Lucy. Like, what did you think? Like, at this point, I was kind of like, I don't know. I was like, the movie's taking a turn.
Yeah, this is like the Japanese horror element of the movie. Like, this is the part of the movie where it becomes unfocused. You know what I mean? And,
right.
And I kind of wish that there was like a definitive direction with what was actually. I mean, I didn't see one. You know what I mean? Maybe the filmmakers had a very strong idea where they wanted to go with this, but I guess now we're getting into spoiler territory. So if you guys are planning on watching this movie and don't want it to be spoiled, maybe now like you duck out. But like to finish talking about this, we kind of need to talk about the ending.
Right, exactly. So Mrs. Wilson makes an appearance, the one who was doing the rounds with Lucy that we mentioned earlier, who of course, like I said, was has been in on this the whole time. She is the one who actually attacks and sedates Lucy. And then we learned that Mrs. Wilson has been around a very long time herself, right, Mike?
That's right.
When she was a girl. She was like a student, I think, at one point, or, a girl who I guess kind of became a familiar, maybe?
Yeah, she was kind of like the Renfield. But now this is the other thing, okay? They're not ancient vampires.
Not that old.
And
no.
as a matter of fact, Jessel seems to have aged in like real time.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? It's not like she's still like this young, black, raven-haired Mediterranean dance teacher. She
Yeah,
just
she's
is
like
an
an
old lady.
old woman, right?
Yeah, so that's another like wrinkle in the vampire lore. You know what I mean? That
Yeah,
this
it's
film
she's getting
adopts.
all this blood and blood transfusions. Why does she look like this? Yeah.
And that's kind of like a beef I had. It's like,
Mm.
what the fuck is going on? Like, like what do you like? You know, why can't you just have like a ham sandwich? Like, why do you need fresh blood? You know, like, and that's this is like where a lot of it doesn't add up. I think. To me.
Yeah, like Anna is still a child.
Yes, exactly. Anna's still a child. Yeah, she's still
Why
young.
is the mother an old decrepit woman and she's getting blood transfusions all the time? Like I didn't get that. So okay, they have Lucy strapped to like, a table or whatever while Mrs. Wilson is watching. Mrs. Jessel implants the pupae of a moth into the throats of both Lucy and Anna in a ritual to exchange their souls.
Right.
Mrs. Jessel believes that she has been successful when Anna awakes and her eye color has changed and she is in a different body. Here's the thing that I didn't even pick up on. So at this point, like Anna and Lucy have exchanged basically.
Yeah,
like,
that's what they're trying to say with the eyes, because you remember like when she's driving around at the beginning of the movie in the car with Wilson,
right.
She's like, "Oh, you have two different color eyes," and then like Wilson's like, it means something. There's like two souls inhabiting your body, so there was like foreshadowing to something like this too from the very beginning. But now this is the thing, okay? Now, as a story, as like a narrative, Anna, I don't think she is. There's no justification for bringing her and putting her out into the world, because she was kind of like a force of bad, really. It's like she's the one who killed like one of the kids. So it's
well, she's probably killed tons of people.
Yeah, so she's not a sympathetic character, and I still feel even though Lucy's complicated, she is more of a sympathetic character.
Of course, yeah. All she did was, break into a house.
Yeah, it wasn't even her idea. She was like kind of like not coerced, but she was peer pressured.
She was with.
Yeah, she was peer pressured into it by her boyfriend.
Pretty much. So Mrs. Jessel orders Anna to dance, and Anna does not respond. Wilson attempts to punish her, and then Anna stabs Wilson with that scissors and then turns on Jessel and stabs her. Both women fall to the floor, heavily bleeding. Jessel tries to bite Anna. Lucy then whips the mother until she releases Anna, and then the two girls throw Mrs. Jessel off a third-floor balcony. Basically, just to backtrack a little, the reason why they're ordering Anna to dance is because it's like Lucy, basically, and they want Lucy to kind of be the new, okay, I got that. Yeah. Okay, so Miss Wilson's dead, and Jessel is dead, the old vampire lady. The ending moments, okay. Anna and Lucy escape from the mansion. They're outside, they're walking along this, the seaside cliff holding hands. Lucy, who is in Anna's body, leans over the cliff, but she does not fall. Instead, she flies into the sky. Her scars then disappear, and Anna, in Lucy's body, watches her float away. I mean, I don't know. What did you think of the ending?
Well, and that's what I mean. Like, they didn't really succeed, in my opinion, to deliver what they were trying to deliver, which would have, like, my impression is they wanted to have this, gothic vampire, Edgar Allan Poe, with a little bit of like a weird element, with the vampire
fairy tale, maybe a grim fairy tale element. Maybe there's a couple of things going on.
Yeah, and like there's no justification for Anna and Lucy to have any common ground at all, where they'd be like holding hands, like walking down out into the to the cliffside there, and I don't like, why did Lucy have to die? You know what I mean? And why does Anna get to exist in the world? There's no, because she seemed more like a malevolent force to me. You know what I mean?
Of course.
And of course, Jessel was probably the most, she's like in the hierarchy of evil. She's probably at the top, as far
Right.
as being a bad, character, a negative character.
Yeah. I mean, so Maury and Bustillo basically said that they wanted it to be more of a fantasy film, and different from Inside. A quote from them says, "If Inside was meant to play as horror taken from fact, then Livid plays as horror taken from a fairy tale." Okay.
Yeah.
Again, I like when artists, be it musicians, actors, directors, don't repeat themselves. And these guys with their second film certainly did not repeat themselves. But sometimes you take a swing and it's not, not a big hit, right?
It
I
didn't
wouldn't say
fully
it was a
connect.
miss though. Right. I don't know. It's kind of weird. I feel like some people may like this film quite a bit. Has little hints of maybe Suspiria and maybe Phenomena, maybe a little bit here and there,
Yeah, there's a little bit of that in there for sure.
But I don't know. I just felt it got a bit messy, and unfocused ultimately.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I am giving this, out of our Necromaniacs score of between 1 and 5, a 3. I do think it is worth seeing, especially if you want to check out all of these, French horror movies that have made the rounds and that are available on the Shudder service. You definitely could see a worse film, I think, on the service. And, in today's crop of films, there are worse films than this out there. But I don't think it's a movie I'd ever go back to, unlike Inside. What about you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm also giving it a 3, but with a couple of caveats here. Like I will not watch this again.
Yeah.
And I
No.
reluctantly recommend it to someone, to few people out there, if you're into this type of thing. Like if you like French horror films, if you're a fan of these two gentlemen, and you
Mhm.
like, this kind of like whimsical, gothic vampire thing, and I mean, when I say gothic, I mean like the traditional sense of a gothic horror film, horror story. It's one of those, types of things,
Mhm.
like a Poe or, Shirley Jackson or something. Check it out, but I'm going to say that you might not fully enjoy it. You know what I mean? So that's my assessment of the whole situation.
Well, they followed up Livid in 2014 with the movie Among the Living, um, which looks very interesting, and hopefully that'll make its rounds at some point. And then they made the movie I did not see, the 2017 Leatherface.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one either, actually.
I did not see it. And some people might be very upset with us as we went on our tear of the new Leatherface, having the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and then having not seen this Leatherface, even though the movies actually do not connect. Some people might have thought, oh, maybe, you should have seen it anyway, just because. I do plan on seeing it because apparently it's not that bad, quote unquote, from
Oh,
some people.
okay. I did like the original Leatherface. I didn't mind that one. With Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3.
3, right? This
Yeah.
one is just called straight up Leatherface. I did see a movie these guys did, the 2020 Candicia,
Yep.
which we never talked about it. I actually thought that was pretty good.
I did too, and a lot of people didn't like it. But
Yeah, Rennie did not like it. I
yeah,
remember, right?
yeah, Randy hated it. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it's everyone's got their opinion. There are things about it. The downside of that movie was the effects were a little corny.
Mm.
Like the special effects were a little bit budget in that one. But I didn't mind that one. I thought it was all right.
And they followed that up with, again, a movie I have not seen, The Deep House.
Now, I almost loved that movie.
Almost. Okay. Yeah.
Jeff and I
I
covered
remember.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
And,
You guys
and,
covered it. I
yeah.
just haven't seen it. Yeah.
They went right up to the edge and did not walk through the door.
Okay.
They stood at the doorway and they didn't go in. And it was like, it had so much potential it's underwater, there's all this like, occult stuff. And it's just like, and they even had like a Lovecraft quote,
Mm.
And
Well,
like they didn't make it anything about some sort of elder gods or like anything. It just became about some weird, creepy family.
what I like about these two guys, and even I haven't even seen all their films, they're making a career in horror.
Yeah, no,
That's what I
dude.
like about
I
these
mean,
two guys.
I keep coming back to their movies. Like
Mm,
I think it's kind of cool that I don't like everything that they've done. You know what I mean?
hmm
So I mean, I give them. I'm interested in their work. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I mean, and I feel like they had a little they've had some American flirtations that they did not enjoy, and that they might be sticking around in their home countries, kind of, unless of course, anything could happen, and somebody could throw a bunch of dough their way with a great project, and who the hell knows what they'll do next.
I feel like a lot of those it didn't really work out for a lot of those French guys, like from the French Extreme in the United
hmm
States, at least.
That may be true. That may be true. I mean, it's weird. I mean, you could even harken it back to like Argento's American experiences. You know what I'm saying? Ultimately, the man is an Italian filmmaker and makes his movies in Italy. He had his flirtations, to doing some of his work in America, to mixed results. Yeah, I mean, look, it just is what it is. Um, Again, what I like that they are, French filmmakers making French horror movies that are reaching the masses. Unfortunately, some are reaching them at a rather slow pace, but others have, Inside is like a cult hit. And now it's got a whole new set of fans
Yeah, yeah. With
because
this
of Shutter.
being on Shutter now, yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So yeah, I'll definitely follow these guys' career. I mean, and I'm gonna do my homework.
Since we touched on Texas Chainsaw Massacre, I have to say I'm going to go out on a limb and say that I think that Ty West should have did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, or whatever version that we're talking about here.
Instead of God, I don't even know the director's
Whatever
name.
fool made the one that's on Netflix right now, that guy should never. That guy
Isn't it?
should.
Oh my
I don't
God, we
know. I
don't
don't
know
want to
the
think
name.
about that guy, but that guy, whoever he is, no. I think Ty West would have did a great job doing a Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie.
You mean David Blue Garcia? Is that who we're talking about? That's the director of the 2022 Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Yeah.
Um, you know, who is actually an Emmy Award winning director and cinematographer, but it certainly is not for,
Good for him. You know.
certainly not for Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Hey man,
2022.
not
No.
everyone's good at everything. It's like it's if you're good at making certain things, that doesn't mean you can just waltz in and start making horror movies.
Mhm.
And but Ty West, I think, dude, X had the same kind of sensibility as the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre in a lot of ways. You know,
Okay. Hey, man,
and
say no more.
the cool thing about that movie is that it seemed old and modern at the same time.
Hmm.
It
Well,
somehow
that has intrigued me.
achieved like, and not nostalgia, not like cheap nostalgia, not that at
hmm
all. Like very um authentic 70s vibes, yet it also seemed current, like it wasn't trying to pander to being a 70s movie. Very
hmm
very interesting, man. I'm really interested to see what you think of this movie.
Um, what do you call it? Yeah, I'm definitely going to see it. Definitely. Uh, I feel like I don't know. I'm not sure what the rest of the year has planned for like big ticket horror. I mean, I know Halloween is coming, which I think will hopefully get the bad taste of the second installment that some people had out of the mouths of the collective people. Um, but yeah, I mean, going to be a weird year, I think,
Well,
as far as theatrical releases and
yeah.
just things in general, I guess.
Well, there's the
Okay.
Benson and Moorhead film that's coming out. They have a new independent movie. Now that those guys are working within the Marvel universe,
hmm
they're still making their own, quiet, independent, weird fiction movies too. So
That's great.
They have one coming out soon too.
Cool. I mean, my favorite horror thing of the year thus far has pretty much been Archive 81 so far. I mean, it's only March, so
that one rates high with me for sure.
Yeah, I totally loved it. It was another thing when it was over. I was like, oh shit, do I got to wait 2 years?
They're definitely going to do another season for sure, I think.
Yeah, it did well. It definitely did well. But yeah, that wraps up another edition of Necromaniacs podcast. If you are a longtime listener, we thank you. If you are a new listener, we thank you and welcome aboard. And please subscribe via Spotify or Apple Podcasts, right, Mike?
That's right. And we sorted out whatever issues we had with Apple, so we're back in the fold. Yeah, so that's good.
Back into the fold. Yes, totally. We thank you all so much for the support. Please continue to comment on our Instagram page and our Facebook page. And we will see you all next time.
Take care, everyone. Talk to you soon.
Good night.